Throughout the years, there have been a lot of players who have been great at stealing the basketball, whether it be jumping the passing lanes, reaching into the cookie jar, or coming in and trapping guys as the help defender. The thing is, a lot of guys get highlighted and remembered for these attributes, but because it isn't an ability that's as romanticized as scoring, rebounding, or passing, some of the greatest ever to do it have been overlooked and have been forgotten in the long history of this league. Today, we're looking at the top 10 pickpockets in NBA history, and let me know in the comments how your list would differ from mine. Starting with number 10, Gary Payton. The Glove was simply one of the greatest defensive guards of all time, and he was an especially great pickpocket, as he got as high as 2.9 steals per game in the 95-96 season, which was also the year that he won the Defensive Player of the Year. He did have longevity on his side, as he ended up being 5th all-time in total steals, but he didn't necessarily have the most gaudy steals numbers on a year-to-year basis, as he has the 25th highest career average of all time. Regardless, longtime basketball fans know all about this guy, as he was one of the most smothering and frustrating players who would let you hear about it along the way. On my list, his resume is just good enough to crack the top 10. Number 9, Hakeem Olajuwon. Some people might be surprised to see Hakeem on this list, and I get it, he's a center. But for myself personally, that's part of what contributes to his case and gives him some extra points. Centers are not usually guarding the primary ball handlers and ball distributors. Therefore, it's generally more difficult for them to acquire a higher number of steals. But with Hakeem's quickness, with his defensive IQ, and with his incredibly long wingspan, he was able to make it happen and was usually among the league leaders in steals, not just for his position, but overall. He has the highest career steals per game average for a center in NBA history at 1.7, and second place isn't all that close. He got as high as 2.6 in 1989. He has the 35th highest career average of all time, and on the all-time list of total steals, he is in a top 10 spot. Again, being a pickpocket who averaged a career 1.7 steals is impressive, but to do it as an incredible rim-protecting 7-foot center is utterly insane. If you ask me, and when you take in the context of their position, Hakeem definitely deserves a spot on this list. Number 8, Maurice Cheeks. Mo Cheeks wouldn't put up the most ridiculous numbers on a game-to-game basis, but he was an all-star level player and a great defensive player as well, who was very consistent and who did his job well night in and night out. He got as high as 2.6 steals per game in 1982 and in 1987. He never once led the NBA in steals per game, but as I mentioned before, that consistency led him to have an amazing career, as he has the 6th most total steals in NBA history, and the 9th highest career average. Number 7, Jason Kidd. As I mentioned on the last placement, Mo Cheeks was consistent, but even more consistent than him was Jason Kidd, who also never once led the NBA in steals per game. In his near 20-year NBA career, he never once averaged more than 2.3 steals per game, but he also never got below 1.5. He has the 18th highest steals per game average for a career, but he's second all-time in total steals. Kidd was one of the more underrated defensive players of his era, and although he wasn't the most athletically gifted, he made up for it with his incredible intelligence and defensive IQ. Number 6, Muki Billock. His nickname was simply The Thief, thanks to his elite pickpocket skills. That fact alone basically secured his spot in the top 10. If we're being honest, he's probably one of the most underappreciated defensive guards in NBA history. He led the NBA in steals per game twice, getting as high as 2.7 in 1997. For his career, he has the 4th highest steals per game average in NBA history, and he's 13th overall in total steals. He's a guy that most young modern fans are not going to be familiar with, but make no mistake, defensively, he was one of the most troublesome and turnover-creating guards of his era. Number 5. Chris Paul. As a pickpocket, a prime CP3 was an absolute menace, especially during his days as a Hornet. He led the NBA in steals per game a whopping 6 times, getting as high as 2.8 in 2009. He has the 10th highest career average in NBA history, and currently he's 3rd all-time in total steals. He's still an active player in the NBA, so he still has time to add to this resume and potentially climb this list. With that being said, a top 5 spot is nothing to scoff at. Number 4. Michael Jordan. With MJ's quickness and with his massive hands, he was an absolute hound and a pest on defense. MJ was certainly aggressive, and although he was great as an on-ball defender, he also took a lot of risks in the passing lanes, and that translated to some truly impressive steals numbers. He led the NBA in steals 3 times in his career, and specifically between 1987 and 1993, Jordan averaged an absurd 2.8 steals per game. He is 4th all-time in total steals, and he has the 3rd highest steals per game average in NBA history. Just one of the many top 10 lists that Jordan cracks. Number 3. John Stockton. He was an extremely aggressive and physical player who knew how to get up into the bodies of the offensive player and frustrate them tremendously. He led the league in steals per game twice in his long NBA career, and he is 1st all-time in total steals. Although he didn't have the most explosive and gaudy steals numbers, what John Stockton had was consistency, which is why he's in the number 1 spot. He had the 7th highest steals per game average in NBA history. Overall, I don't think Stockton gets enough love and appreciation for what he did defensively, as he was a stabilizing force for Utah on that end for essentially 2 decades. Number 2. Michael Ray Richardson. This ranking might surprise some of you, considering that he's generally an unknown player. He's also only 57th on the all-time list for total steals. But to be completely honest, that was due to his extremely shortened NBA career. Essentially what you need to know is this guy violated the league's drug policy 3 times, and in February of 1986, David Stern banned him from the NBA for life. He was only 30 years old at the time that he was banned. His peak was absolutely insane though, as he led the league in steals 3 times in his career, getting as high as 3.2 in 1980. For his 8-season-long career, he had a jaw-dropping average of 2.6 steals, which is the 2nd highest career average of all time. That is an average that many players don't ever reach for a single season, and that's what he got over that 8-year stretch. Truly one of the great forgotten defensive legends of his time. Here is my list of honorable mentions. Should any of these pickpockets have made the top 10 instead? I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Number 1. Alvin Robertson. Like Michael Ray Richardson before him, Alvin Robertson didn't have a very lengthy NBA career, which is why he's only 11th all-time for the most total steals. With that being said, he did lead the NBA in steals per game 3 times, getting as high as a ridiculous 3.7 in 1986. That is easily the NBA record for the highest single-season average of all time. He averaged at least 3 steals per game in 5 separate seasons of his career, which is utterly insane. Most of the players on this top 10 list never got close to averaging 3 steals per game even once in their career. He has the greatest career steals per game average of all time, at an astonishing 2.7. Only 4 players in NBA history have ever achieved the illustrious quadruple-double. And thanks to Robertson's all-time great pickpocket skills, he became the first and only guard to ever do it, which he did on February 18th, 1986 against the Phoenix Suns. The thing is, that was just 1 out of 4 games where Alvin Robertson got 10 steals. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, he is the greatest pickpocket that the league has ever seen. So what do you guys think? How would your list differ from mine? Let me know below. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.